Hello, everybody. It's Mike here. Langford.com and DearBands. Episode 11 already. Can't believe it. I was getting a couple things set up here. Did my lazy share on Facebook. You know what I should really do is do like a quick Instagram video or something, or TikTok, and just blast that out. So apparently that's what all the cool kids are doing these days. So anyways, welcome again. Another episode of DearBands Live, a show we're trying to share some stories of career musicians and music industry professionals. I'm going to hop into it today because I only have a limited amount of time. I had this particular artist, his manager, was sending me a text messages today. So you know what? You got to keep this under 4 hours. This guy's he's a busy cat. Can't have him all night. Without further ado, I wrote the intro this time as well. Dan's been ripping up the Canadian and country music charts as a singer and songwriter for the better part of a decade now. His music has also found success on YouTube with video concepts from John Wayne wandering the streets of Tokyo to converting his garage into a Starship Enterprise to releasing covers with his Bluegrass band, DD and the Butterlovers. Watch any of these videos and you'll understand the fun and sincere energy Dan brings to country music is also truly unique. Without further ado, I hear him at the door, taking his shoes off the Canadian way. Introduce everybody. Mr. Dan Davidson.
Hey.
How's it going, Dan?
Good. I took my shoes off. I give them a good wipe.
The Canadian way?
Feeling good.
I only say that because I've had a few people, few Canadians point out, and when we're in the States, no one takes their shoes off.
Dude, it's so weird. My first time in Nashville, I was staying at a Canadian's house, and he was married to an American. And I got there, came inside, took my shoes off, and he just looks at me and kind of goes, "Hey." He goes, "Hey, Amy, come down and see what Canadians do when they come into your house."
It's a thing. I don't know what it is. There's something in our DNA. We're just we always take our shoes off.
It's so weird. Of course you do. They're full of what I call car shoes. It's got car poop all over them in the wintertime. All that brown stuff. No one wants that on their couch.
I don't want that in the house.
On your coffee table. It's brutal.
I want to say, when people are like, "Oh, don't worry about taking your shoes off," do you feel weird?
Yeah, 100%.
Do you have to go tippy toe?
I'll only stay on. I won't walk on carpet. Less
shoe area on the floor, at least.
I'll at least, or maybe I'll just walk on all fours or something. It's a bit of an odd version of the Canadian way, but
this is the time. This is the time when you're like, I wish I had mad handstand skills.
Oh, yeah, that would be.
Just.
That's like the Ukrainian circus freak way, not the not the Canadian way.
So how's it going? You're in Western Canada. We're starting a little bit later than usual.
Yeah, I'm out in Edmonton, and it's been good, man. I mean, just living that COVID dream, just like the rest of us in the music industry. It's funny how you find ways to be busy, and I feel like this whole thing has really. I think the people that are doing it right have taken a step back, and just been like, okay, obviously I'm gonna have some time here. How can I make this count without just saying I'm writing for 7 months?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny. Well, it's not even funny. You bring that up. Just I feel like one of the things about being a musician or artist or someone that works in the creative industry, it's you will get your the job description or what you're supposed to do, and then you'll get some wacky variable. And it's like you're on a reality show or something. It's oh, you need to bake a cake, but you have to wear your oven mitts the entire time. And you're just okay, this is going to be a little bit difficult. But it's how have you kind of navigated the waters this year?
Well, I mean, I think financially I was able, I think I kind of just got lucky a little bit. I timed it right with my Sound Exchange royalties coming in at the right time. And then also not having to spend 20 grand on Air Canada this summer flying 6 guys around the country. That helped. So yeah, I think cash flow wise, I kind of lucked out, but I knew that you can't just sit. You have to figure out ways to keep the money rolling and it's forwarding your brand and forwarding your story while everyone's sleeping, and that was the hardest thing. So I mean, I did a big shift last year that really played into how the world's ended up anyway, and my goal was with the decline of being able to hang your hat on the tip of the spear for your promotional angle is radio. Like that's just not how it is anymore. Like radio's pretty tight and, conglomerate programming and major labels having things on lock. So for me as an indie artist, I was like, okay, every month I'm going to do a new piece of content, and all that budget that I was spending on traditional means, I'm going to move into more like digital ads and outside of the box thinking. And so, yeah, I mean, every month it's been either an original song that I'll push out and focus on ads and content to support it and different ways to play it and showcase it. And then the next month is always something viral. So I'm just trying to like keep that going. So it's been just a pile of content for me basically for this last year. Every month is something new.
So you focus on like one key piece per month.
Pretty much, yeah. And if something's starting to catch momentum at radio, if the stars line up or whatever, then I'll keep focusing on that and just kind of release support content. Just like last month, I released a song called Role Models, which is a complete thing that could possibly not work at radio because there's 3 major F-bombs right in the middle of the song. So that's just not something that's done in country music, let me tell you that much. But yeah, for that, like there's some little sparks of radio. And so instead of doing a viral thing this December, I decided to keep it rolling with some just a weird acoustic version. And I have a green screen studio in the back of my studio. So we just go and set up and shoot it. It cost me literally nothing. Yeah, and it's just making lots of noise, and I think I've been really like I've always hung my hat on the fact that personality always wins. So like I'm not gonna try and play the game that everyone else is trying to play. Like especially in country, it's really saturated with people doing the safe thing, and I just think that if I'm gonna win in that world and in the country music game, I have to do what works for me, and a lot of that is having fun, having a personality, having some edge. There's a bit of a rock and roll flair in there, and just connecting with people in my own way.
No, that you would talk about, being, having your own edge and being you. One of the things I picked up early on, one of the little quotes, God forbid you become known for something that doesn't come natural to you. And I always thought about that, and Jeff Dalziel, my mentors growing up, and done a lot of work with Jeff. He always thought, you got to go with your gut on things. You got to go with like your instinct on certain things. Because if you're right, that part of the formula. If you don't know what you did to get there, if you don't know who you are as an artist, if you went into, if you got signed and you went into your label and marketing and they kind of dress up what Dan Davidson should be. And imagine you come out the pooper end of that and you're just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And honestly, I think there's a lot of people that feel like that. A lot of artists that are doing well that are always, they have the fear in their eyes. Like, it's like, I see it a lot, but it's like, you can just tell that am I doing the right things? Am I saying what I should be saying? Am I positioning myself the way I should? And it's like, you don't want to be thinking like that. I think to be creative and to be confident, you gotta be rolling, And it's so funny that you said that, God forbid you should become famous for whatever.
It doesn't come naturally, yeah.
Because as soon as we finished our very first Dee and the Butterlovers Bluegrass cover video, my director, Travis, who's like one of my best friends, and we do everything together on the branding side, I looked at him and I was like, if I get famous for being in a bluegrass band called Dee and the Butterlovers, I'm going to murder you.
It was either that good or you weren't sure. No, it is, all that stuff's excellent. And you're talking about, again, viral videos and just like entertaining content. It's like that's one of the things with some bands where it's like have music people can dance to, have stuff that's entertaining. That's how you win on the internet. It's not to say it's like that simple, but I think that's a really big part of the formula.
Yeah, and you know what? It's different too. Like it's different coming from each person. Like one person delivering one piece of viral content might not work if I did it, because I'm a 36-year-old dude in Western Canada who has kids and was in rock bands and all this stuff. So it's like it's different coming from me. So I think a person has to have a little bit of a handle on who they are and what they can get away with.
I would definitely agree with it. You talk about the rock band. Let's get a little bit of history. I know you originally from your band Tupelo Honey. Mm-hmm. You're in Toronto recording. Yeah,
it was a
how many years ago was that?
Man, I don't even know when we first met, but Tupelo started in 2003 or 4. Like that's a long time ago now. God damn it, getting old. But I was young at the time when we started the band. But yeah, it was like I met a lot of the guys in that band going to music school at Grant McEwen out here in Edmonton. It's kind of like our Humber of the West, I guess. Um, Sorry, I'm drinking an old fashioned. It's making me burp.
It's okay. My water's doing the same right now.
Sure, water. Yeah, so it was good. I mean, it was a good environment to meet people at. I had no idea what I wanted out of music. All I knew is I loved playing guitar and I was okay at it, and music came semi-naturally to me. So it made me feel better going to university where my marks came up a little bit because I was used to playing guitar. But yeah, from there we started this kind of terrible folk band with this girl who was singing, and it was awful, but we liked playing together. So we found a singer in town here that was really great, and we started writing for a rock and roll band. And we never really none of us had really done the direction that we were going in, which was like a mainstream rock band. But we loved bands like Big Wreck, and I came from a land of a lot of metal and punk growing up, and everybody had their different things we were bringing into it. And it was really exciting. You know, in the early days, we were a band for a week, and we entered a talent show and played 2 songs, and we won. And there was a guy who was at the show who was a talent buyer for like one of the biggest rock festivals in Alberta. So after our 2-song set, we got booked to play 45 minutes 3 weeks later. So we had to come up with a 45-minute set in 3 weeks and perform it and not screw it up. And we did. We played for 5,000 people on our first show. Didn't screw it up too bad. And yeah, we were kind of off to the races. I mean, it's one of those stories where in the early days, things were lining up really, really well for us. You know, we were showcasing a lot around town, and luckily for us, the Junos were in Edmonton that year, and somebody from the agency group came out and watched us, and we got signed, and before we knew it, we were touring with 3 Days Grace and Metric and Billy Talent, and we entered another band contest in Toronto. It's like the National Band Slam or something like that, and that was 2005, I think, and we were the Edmonton finalists, and went out and we won the national one. And it's so cool because I still see people from that contest in my sphere of influence. Like I think, who was in that? State of Shock was in that contest, and I think the Salads were just like a headliner, but they were there. A couple other bands, guys I see touring around in country bands now. It's really, really odd, but yeah, and that's where we met our mutual friend Jeff Dalziel, who was working at Sony as a producer at the time, and. Well, man, what an experience. I'm sure you were around a lot of those records being made out there too, but like when they were shutting down the old Sony plant in, where was that? In it's Toronto.
Like Eglinton and something. I just remember the bus.
Yeah, like we got there, we were working with Jeff, and it was like this exciting time, this big producer from Toronto. We'd never done any co-writing whatsoever. But it was a real sign of the times. The music industry was just hitting the shitter because they were literally shutting down and packing up the Sony building around us as we were practicing and playing and recording. It was fun.
That was a really weird vibe because I remember being there when it was like good, and I always joke with Jeff that like I was there because the cafeteria. Because he would feed me and I was broke in Toronto. But it's like, yeah, just seeing the vibe and just how everything felt. And then when the merger started happening and you realize that there's four people employed and there's only 2 chairs. Like, and you're just like, okay, like people are fighting over stuff now a little bit.
It's like serious game of musical chairs.
Very, very serious game of musical chairs. And even when the merger happened in the new building and Megawatt Studios and everything, and it's just like, it wasn't the same at all.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it was a great thing that happened though, that we were there to see that at the time, because we were first of all, we were meeting a lot of great people like Nicole Hughes, who I see is tuned in tonight, and Dave Thompson and I can't remember who else we were working with at Sony ATV, but these were our first co-writers, the first people I ever did any co-writing with. So I learned a ton about creating music with other people and how co-writing helps you basically gain a percentage, not lose a percentage of a song. There was just so much going on in the music landscape those days. Like we were doing pretty well after those sessions in Toronto. We got back to Edmonton, we released our record, and we had like who was it? Atlantic New York flying out to see us in Edmonton because we were selling 1,000 tickets in Edmonton, in our hometown, like selling out Reds, and it was kind of nutty. So we'd have like, Universal LA and Atlantic New York flying out. And every time we get off stage, we'd see our manager and be like, man, what happened? What did they think? And they're like, oh, well, they loved it, but everybody got fired. So, I mean, that can only happen so many times before, in my head, I'm like, okay, I got to figure out how to take the reins here and compete with these major label artists on a zero budget while living in my mom's basement. And that was...
Make this work.
That's like the mantra of my career. Not that I still live in my mom's basement. I have a house now, Mike.
Oh, it's funny. You talk about kind of the sign of the times, like in the music industry. One of my memories from the Sony building, because I think they had 3 internet stations, like near the calf, near the big, huge picture of Celine there.
All right.
Keep it beautiful. But they had 3 like internet stations there. And I remember someone was looking up something on MySpace, and they were looking at, was it Good Charlotte's MySpace page?
Oh, yeah.
And My Chemical Romance. And they're just like, oh my God, bands don't need websites. Like, they'll just have this. And there's music on it. And the fans. And then there's some bands back then that figured out the hack where you could just sit and just add people all day. And all of a sudden you've got, 60,000, 100,000 friends on there. And next thing you know, you're selling out venues and you've got a bus.
Yeah, well, that was like what Panic at the Disco was doing. I remember like those websites like that and like Pure Volume. I don't know if you remember Pure Volume.
Yeah, you could blow up on there.
Yeah, and I remember like the Spill Canvas, a band that we toured with a little bit. They were all over that stuff too, and that was the wave. And we didn't quite ride that wave. We weren't quite there. Like we were just, man, I think about it all the time. Like all the stuff that I've learned through the last X amount of years, say a decade, if I could have applied that to what we were doing when we had so much going on when I was like 22 or 24 or whatever it was, we were opening for Bon Jovi. I had no idea what to do to capitalize on that kind of stuff. I just look back at stupid young Dan and want to punch him in the face.
sit on MySpace and add people. You'll thank me later.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you had the rock band. That transitioned to you fronting the rock band?
Yeah, I mean it was a tumultuous time. That's a hard thing to do, and I know you know how it is with the band life, but it's like we got to a point where we had done how many records? 1, 2, 3 records with our old singer, and we were brothers on the road. It was great, but we all had nothing in common when we get home. Really, I mean, he was having some issues with a lot of things, and it just got to the point where we couldn't move forward as a professional band, and when shows started to suffer and our ability to practice and move forward started to suffer, we made a decision to kind of move forward without him, and that was really hard. I mean, I was kind of depressed, to be honest. Like after that happened and the band was in limbo, I felt like I had to kind of be the cheerleader a little bit. Like that was the role I felt like I've always taken in Tupelo Honey. I was a bit of the band mom, I guess, and just trying to make sure things were always moving forward and people were making decisions. And yeah, so that was tough for me because I honestly had no idea what to do. I wanted to front the band, I wanted to sing, but I had never sung in a band really before. I never knew how to do that. I didn't know anything really about stage banter or presence, and so we were trying out a few people and a lot of people that were great and good friends, but it just wouldn't have made sense to do it. So after having 4 songs in the can for a record that we were working on, I just flew to Toronto and told our producer, Jeff Dalziel, same guy, that I wanted to give it a shot and we'll just see what happens. And so he kind of put me through a little bit of a vocal boot camp. And the record that I took over on, we did a double album, basically. Like one side was just acoustic stuff, just with the focus on publishing. And we just tried to relearn how to be a band. And man, it was a trying time, but we did a lot of cool things in those years. And I think that part of the Tupelo Honey development was all about endurance. It was just like, can we survive this? Are we a strong enough group of friends and musicians? And we did it, and we got through that record. It wasn't my favorite record that we did at all. I don't think sonically we were on a wavelength yet. So we did one more record with me singing after that, which I think was like the best thing I've ever done with that band. And the songs were just so mountaintop rock. Like it was just so arena to me. And I was so proud of it, but it was just, is another one of those weird things in the industry that the timing wasn't quite right. Like in active rock radio, it was Five Finger Death Punch or the Lumineers. It was so. I mean, I don't know how it is out there, but out here, it was just like, what are you guys doing on radio? Like, there's just no room for anybody that was in that 30 Seconds to Mars kind of zone. And I mean, the Foo Fighters were ubiquitous; they're everywhere, so you can't even really compare. It was just the biggest bands ever, and the only new bands were extremes. So it was really hard for us to fit in, and we were so pigeonholed as an active rock band that getting onto alternative rock was really hard. So it was tough, but we did have some success on Much Music with that record, and a lot of like really critically acclaimed kind of reviews, but the timing was off. And I think it was nice because we did that. It felt like a bit of a period on the sentence and a time to take a breath, and we kind of moved on. So everyone tried some other things. I started up a production company and went back to school, and yeah, the other guys were doing, like Tyler, our lead guitar player, is a born artist. Like, he's just like visually one of the most talented artists ever. Like, he just does anything and it's amazing. So he focused on that a lot. Our bass player Steve went to law school. Greg was teaching and playing a lot in other bands like Econoline Crush and all these bands that we used to listen to when we were kids. And and our guy Brad, who was Dan 2.0 when I took over singing, he was like the better younger guitar player. He opened up a studio in Edmonton here, which is doing really well. So everybody kind of found their little thing, but I couldn't stay away. After I got my business degree, I was like, okay, what am I gonna do with my life? Same thing I've always done. Right back to music. So.
Oh, it's funny. And I'm glad you brought the rest of the guys to the band, because that's one of the things that, like, when I started listening through what everyone brought in Tupelo, I'm just like, everyone's a monster player. And then when I heard that there was a bit of a split with the singer, and Jeff's like, yeah, Dan's going to step in and do it. It's like that. I think that takes a lot for someone to go, I'm going to sing now, because I've seen in the past where it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of the end of stuff, because it's like, it's a big hat to kind of, toss in the middle and go, I think I can do this.
Well, the thing that was really tough is I've seen it. Like, one of my favorite bands in the emo days was this band called Seosin from California /PA. And when they lost their singer, who is this guy named Anthony Green, who went and played in Circa Survive, it was kind of like, I still loved the band, but I didn't love them in the same way. And I knew that that's how people were going to react to Tupelo. So I knew it was going to be about making sure we kept as many fans that loved us, and then made some new fans. So that was really the angle. And, some of those YouTube comments were pretty harsh from time to time, but some of them were great. So.
Well, yeah, the fans they're going to say what they're going to say. Other thing I wanted to bring up, the internal balance and chemistry of the band. Because, like, as much as we have bands and people think, okay, there's 5 musicians in a band, I'm of the thought most bands, your singer's 51% of what's going on. They're kind of spokesperson of what's happening. They're kind of the mouthpiece of what's happening. And then there's the band. And the idea where, like, you were part of that band chemistry, and now you're the front. Did that change anything, the dynamics in the band? Or did you feel it? Or
I think I did a little bit. I think I kind of felt like I never really lost the band mentality, though, and I think that's why it worked so well, is because everybody was just as important as the next guy to me, because I was always that guy. I was always the guitar player, so I didn't want anyone to feel the way undervalued, because sometimes we'd be out on the road, and I think our first singer, he didn't really pull the same weight that the rest of us did. He was an extraordinary talent and very charismatic, but he didn't put in the work. So when people would give him more than half of the credit, I think it was hard on some of us. But that's the kind of thing that's what a band is for. It's like you talk each other through these things, and it's like, it's so crazy. I feel like somebody could write a sociological study on the dynamics of a band, because it is very complicated, and it's about managing egos, and it's about managing friendships, and still finding ways to be creative and push each other, and how to recover from fights and all these things. So I felt like when I took over singing, a little bit of a weight was lifted, because my band mom role just kind of morphed into the singing side of things a little bit. And so, yeah, I mean, it helped. And I did drive a lot of, pushing to record the way we did, and involve the people that we did, and all that kind of stuff. So it was good. I'd never really quite felt like the singer until I launched my country thing, though, or it's like my name's on the marquee, so it's like it's a little bit more all on me, and I got to control all the money and all that stuff. It's in a lot of ways it's a lot easier than being in a band. Being in a band is very tough, and it's very rewarding because it's like lifelong friendships that turn into, for me, brotherhood. You know, like I couldn't picture playing music without these guys. So like I still have Tyler and Greg playing country music with me now, and they're just so good that it's annoying.
Yeah, they're all monster players. And I thought, I'm just like, okay, out west, because I knew like some like killer musicians from Western Canada. I'm like, okay, it's like I feel like you either get really good at sports like hockey, or really good at music, or you get into trouble.
Yeah, honestly, that's small town Canada right there. Is what that is.
No, not Peterborough. Same thing. It's just like it's you got your couple paths to kind of go down. So you've not say Tupelo's kind of run its course, but it's just like how did you transition into the solo country career?
Well, when everyone we saw the landscape of where rock was and where Tupelo was, it seemed the right time for us to take a bit of a breath and just to let ourselves. We didn't know if we were going to make another record or not or what. We just knew that we needed some time to just like figure our creative selves out a little bit. And so there was never like okay, the band is done. It was never that kind of a thing. It was more just kind of let's explore some stuff and maybe we'll come back to it. We still might come back and do some songs together or something. But yeah, I mean, when I was writing and producing a lot of pop music in the downtime and getting my Bachelor of Commerce degree, I was thinking about it. Like I'd been talking to Jeff a lot about producing some music for me and doing a solo thing, and the more I thought about it, I just kind of kept getting drawn into the machine of country music, especially out west here, where it's just like in Alberta, it's everywhere, man. And seeing a lot of my friends in the rock world having some success there, it was just like, well, maybe. And then when when I figured out what modern country is, like what Dallas was doing, like seeing Dallas Smith, who was in Default for years, and we used to tour together nonstop. It was really inspiring to see it because it was so rock. Like it's a rock band with banjos. That's all it is. And he was coming into town to open for Florida Georgia Line at, in front of 16,000 people at Rexall Place. So I sent him a text message and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be there. I'll, if you want to grab a coffee or something later, let me know." And he's like, "Well, come to the after party." So I came down to this after party and there's like 1,000 people waiting in line to come in, and he's just like hanging out on a couch drinking beer. He probably got paid like, I don't even know, $5,000 that night just to be there. And and I was like, "Dude, this is incredible! Like, good for you." But like, it's like lightning hardly ever strikes twice in the music industry. So when it does, like, Jesus, good for you. And he was like, he was just like, "Dude, I think you should give this a shot because, like, you kind of the right look, you got the right voice for this." And I was like, "Yeah, kind of even the right name. Like, Dan Davidson sounds like a pair of jeans. I'll have a Dan Davidson in a 30, please." It sounds like denim. So yeah. Anyway. I did a song with Jeff and a mutual friend of ours, a writer from Toronto, Karen Kozowski, who lives in Nashville now. She and we just hit this song, and it was great, and some stations picked it up, and I was like, okay, and that helped me book a couple festivals, and right away I started thinking, okay, how am I going to keep this moving, and what's the plan? So I started reaching out to as many writers that I knew were at that pro level in my neck of the woods out here, and one of them I knew was Clayton Bellamy from the Roadhammers, and Clay's been around town for a while, and the Roadhammers were like the highest selling Canadian country band of all time, and he's got Junos and SoCan Awards and all this stuff. But I was like, I'll just reach out randomly. Like we've met and hung out once or twice and called him. He's like, "Yeah, buddy, come on out." So I went out to his like tiny little house or tiny little town where his house is. It's just east of Edmonton there, and it's just it's a classic like, oh, this guy's in a country band kind of house. And it was great, man. Like Clay was such a nice guy, had such a great energy, and I felt like creatively we connected right away. We wrote this song, put on a snobby pot of French press coffee, and just started digging into a country song. And it was one of those weird moments where it's a Sky song, where the song is done in an hour, and it was like, whoa, what the hell just happened? And so I recorded it, and I had most of the chorus sketched out, just stomping and clapping around in my kitchen like a maniac, and brought it to Clay, and he helped me make sense of it, and we brought it to Jeff, produced it up, released it, and it was like top 20, the highest selling Canadian country song and the #1 independent song in Canada within like 3 or 4 months, and it just kept going. Like this song just, it was amazing. It was on the charts for 8 months or something like that, and so that was really what started it all. This song called "Found." Like once that, as soon as the moment, like my whole career has been keeping up with the momentum of that song. Like to this day, it still streams like a motherfucker. Like it's just crazy. So I think what it is, it's a wedding song, and I think that really ties in with like the country crowd. Like people like these kind of moments and songs that can be soundtrack to your life kind of stuff. So Found really tied into that, and that's really what set the pace. And from there, it was just about, okay, I'm doing country music. It's really happening. What's my brand, and how do I stick to my guns? And yeah, I mean, and that's why I'm so lucky being so surrounded by so many great people I've met in music. My video director and one of my best friends, Travis, he was the singer in Social Code, awesome Canadian band that toured like crazy with bands like Good Charlotte and The Used. And anyway, nicest dude. And I was getting him to do all the music videos for my roster of pop acts that I was producing and writing for at the time. And I was like, okay, dude, I got this song that's blown up. I need a video. What can we do? I've got zero money. And he's like, well, let's have a long think. So we sat in his apartment with pieces of paper, and the only thing that was written down was mascot costumes. So we did this all in like a day. We went and rented mascot costumes, dressed up my friends like a bunch of idiots, filmed it, top 20 on CMT. Started to feel invincible for a moment there. I was just like, fuck, this is...
Do anything.
I am a country god. But no, it wasn't the case. I mean, the crushing reality was just the changing of the industry. But, you know, I feel like it was really great. With that song, I established a mode and I established a personality, and I feel like that's what's been sort of carrying me. And I've you know, since then, I think I've released like 10 music videos and had a couple top 20s on CMT and iTunes, a couple top 40s, and you know, a gold record, independent gold record, which is really cool. And just a lot of fun stuff. 6 CCMA nominations and 10 ACMA awards. So it's really interesting to see how warm that community is, the country music community in Canada. Like I felt it was so competitive when I left the rock world, and it was so like, I don't know, like fake friendly at times. Like there'd be bands that would watch you in the corner of the show, like, instead of really like, you know,
interesting competition. Like I do think we're on the same side of the boulder. We're trying to push up the mountain, but there's definitely times when you're just like, can we just stop hating?
Yeah, I feel that too.
Can we just cheer somebody on for a second?
I think so. And I think that's what pumps me up, you know, when I see that camaraderie. I think that's why I'm in music. I'm in music because I want to make cool shit with my friends and travel the world, and I want to meet people and have experiences and connect. And that's kind of the bottom line. So like I'm always excited to meet people, and I've found that that's served me really well, making friends rather than making enemies, I guess if you want to call it. But it's just like all these people, the survivors of the music industry, the ones that stick around, you want to be friends with those people, because those are the people that are going to push the industry forward.
Yeah, they'll help. They'll make the call, they'll send the email, they'll give the warm introduction. You know, being an island, and that's what I try to tell people. Like, being an island in music doesn't help you.
No, not at all.
It's just, there's so many things where you can make a lot more headway. I want to ask. So, we have Tupelo, we have Dan Davidson. How many years was Tupelo? How many years have we been doing Dan Davidson right now?
I just thought about that the other day, and it scares me.
Does
how
it feel
fast...
like forever ago?
Tupelo, in many ways, does feel like forever ago, but like so many of the memories were just like the best times I've ever had, so they also feel really fresh. I mean, it is a long time ago. Like I was 18, I think, when we started the band in 2003 or 4 or whatever it was, and yeah, like that feels like forever ago. So say it was 2004 to like 2015, so you know, 11-ish years, maybe 12 years. And now with country, I think I've been at it 5 or 6 years now.
That's crazy to think. Like, again, like looking over your accomplishments and awards and nominations and how many videos released and amount of songs and success at radio. Like if I was in your position to be thinking, okay, we've accomplished a lot of things as Tupelo, but then you look at all that experience that you brought with you into your country career, and like how many things you could probably just fast track.
Oh,
like
man.
You already know certain things.
100%. Like there's just like so much less of finding out by doing this time around, which is great. And I already had people that I knew I wanted to work with, and I knew how the industry functioned, and like I was thinking, that moment that I was talking about where all the labels got fired that were coming to see Tupelo. That was a real like light bulb moment for me because it kind of started my own like training course where I was like, okay, what does a manager do? What does an agent do? What does a tour manager do? What does a publisher do? And I figured out all these things, and it really just started to like open my eyes to like what the landscape is really like. And so when it came out in country, I was ready for it, and I had a little bit of a leg up on a lot of new artists that were just coming out. They're probably cooler than me, but but I'm older and smarter. Yeah.
I have a question here from Cindy. It says, easier genre to adapt to, rock or country?
It's tough to say. I think, for me now that I've done country for a while, I think there's a lot more rules on country music, like what's acceptable and what people expect. And I think that's an opportunity for somebody like me to try and shake things up a little bit and bring some personality to the table. But in general, country is a safer genre, no question. There's like a lot more family values, and there's a lot more like maybe religious things kicking in. But I find that the demographic is so much wider. Like the demographic in country music is like 12 to 90, where what we were experiencing in Tupelo Honey was more like 20 to 35 or 17 to 30, that kind of thing. And it all depends on your this type of stuff you're doing in either genre. Like you can play cowboy songwriter country, and that's going to be an older crowd, or you can play like party, shout, stomp, come on, hell yeah, tonight, come on, kind of country, and that'll be your college kids. So it's always a little different. But now that I'm producing and writing a lot more rock and roll, I'm finding it's kind of a nice palate cleanser for me. I'm in a really good spot where I can do the country music that I love, and it's still embraced by country music in many ways. But with rock, I'm allowed to just turn off whatever the things are that I'm trying to keep in mind to keeping it in a lane, especially when it's, I think a lot of this statement that I'm going to say is coming from that I'm working on a project for somebody else. Like when it's my own project, it's a different thing. But right now, all the work that I'm doing in rock, I'm just turning up the don't give a fuckness to 10 and just really, really just trying to let go and just like make it about emotion and vibe. And it's an interesting, change in how songs are being written and songs are being perceived now that the way we find out about it is through playlists and things like that, and underground viral kind of word of mouth things and blogs and shit. 'Cause it really can be a lot more crazier, like you'll never, I don't know, like there's all these bands that I loved growing up I'd never hear on the radio, and I'm not even sure I heard about them, like Kerrang! Magazine or something like that. And it's interesting that those bands were so big. Like even bands like Muse are never really on the radio, And
no, but you had that one friend. You always had like a trusted ear that seemed like I had like a couple friends. I'm just like,
your local A&R guy.
Yeah, it's like what's cool, and the things I should be listening to. And like back then, if we wanted to find stuff, we might need to go on, Kazaa or LimeWire or Napster and try to dig stuff up or dig around on YouTube. And it's like now, Spotify, Apple Music.
Yeah. Or you find an artist you like and hit the, whatever radio, and it just like plays you all these things that you've never heard of before.
Yeah, the discoverability for it.
Yeah. So I think I think the lanes are wider now. Now, especially going forward, and I'm trying to bring that into country music. So I find that there's little barriers to entry on either genre, really. But I feel like it's what the audience really expects, and in country music it's a lot about the song, and in rock it seems to be more about the vibe and the mood and what it makes you feel.
No, I would agree. It's like I don't know a lot of country songs where I'm like, that riff is what's selling it, but I can name a dozen rock songs like, yeah, it's the riff. They could be saying anything over it.
Yeah, exactly. They're just saying a recipe for cake.
I've asked a few people, Spotify royalties, do you have a problem with them?
Well, yeah, I mean, it sucks.
but you just talked about playlists and stuff, the discoverability and searchability aspect of it. Do you think that balances it out a little bit if you can use that as your leverage?
Yeah, it's a necessary evil. I mean, what are we going to do about it? I'm not really sure. I would, of course, love to be paid more for Spotify royalties.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, but I think I can't remember if it might have been you posted something about this, and it's like, yeah, it's not great, but that's what we got, and it's the number one way that people can hear our songs. So if we can get to that many more people with almost zero effort, like that's amazing. That's a great marketing tool and something we have to learn how to deal with. And you know, it is frustrating. It's frustrating when you're trying to qualify for awards and stuff. Like, for example, for my gold record for Found, I went to figure out like how many streams does one sale equal, and I can't remember if it was 150 or 1,500.
1,500 is streams per sale. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a lot. Like that's a lot of streams.
That's a lot.
These are the things that are the tough pills to swallow in the business. But yeah. I mean, what's our alternative, really? I mean, that's the best way to get to the most amount of people, and that's just kind of how it is.
And again, you're making a living in music, and you're getting the streaming payouts from Spotify and Apple Music and Deezer and Tidal and all these things. So it's like it can be done. Not to dig too much into finances, but like streaming revenue versus touring revenue. How do they kind of balance? Taking this year out of the equation.
Yeah, taking this year out. Well, you know, touring has been great for me. Like I've found myself in a spot in country music now where I'm really liking when I'm getting paid for a show. I mean, obviously it's a different thing now for me because now that I'm by myself, like I'm in control of taking care of all the travel. And with country in the summertime, it's never a tour. It's always festivals. And so it'd be flying 6 guys out to Prince Edward Island from Edmonton. You might as well fly to Japan. Like it's the same price. so it's pretty expensive, but it's great. Like I really enjoy getting the touring revenue. I think honestly the biggest life-changing thing for me in the last 5 years when it comes to making money in music is finding out about how sound exchange royalties actually work. And it blows my mind, man. Like I was talking to some other artists, like major label artists in Canada that are doing really well. And we're on a group message on text just trying to figure out sound exchange together. And I had this thought. I was like, this is insane. I've been doing this for 15 years and I'm talking to one of like the biggest country bands in the country and we both are just finding out how to get paid. Like, that's crazy. How is there nobody telling us this stuff? But yeah, so sound exchange is amazing. So collecting, you know, feature performer and mechanical royalties on basically digital radio plays like Sirius XM. It adds up. Yeah, man, like a play on Sirius XM is like $20 as compared to a play on commercial radio. It's like $1 on a major station. And so, I mean, up. That's 4 times a year getting those checks has really been... It's amazing, man. It keeps the fires burning, especially without touring, and you know, you can't always. Sometimes a song's not gonna just blow up on streaming, and it's not gonna, you know, lead you to other things. So it's nice to have some income coming from some different things. And for me, like, there's a couple songs that have been kind of the engine that's always running. Like they're in recurrent on a few stations, and they're in recurrent on Sirius XM, and that's kind of the new model, really. If you can get a decent guarantee for shows, or you're in control of your own ticketing, which is going to be my next challenge, I think, as an indie artist. I'm going to do some of my own touring, I think. There's only a few ways you can really make the money, so you have to get creative, and that's honestly been a big part of this this COVID dream that I'm living right now. Is just getting creative and trying to figure out how else can we get paid, and that's what I did with that Dieselbird Music Festival.
Just about to get into that. What sparked that? I'll give you a second so you can hydrate there. Well, and again, to bring it back around, it's just like there's so many people just been sitting on their hands the last few months being like, oh, we can't do anything. It's just like, go on YouTube. There's lots of things people have been talking about. Talk to other bands. Just like everyone was streaming in April. Like every evening it was someone's going live. It's like, don't tell me there's nothing you could do. Dieselbird Music Fest. What sparked that? And a little bit of background on that for people.
Well, actually, so I was planning on going on vacation to Mexico in March. So we were all packed up, got in the car, and we were like, we better check what the big, you know, COVID report is today before we head out. And of course, that was like all international travel has been disapproved or whatever they said. And so we canceled our vacation to Mexico and stayed in a hotel that night on the way to like by the airport or something with my kids and my wife, and we were just like boiling with hate. And
You're so close. Like,
yeah, we could have gone, but it just wasn't the responsible thing to do. So we just didn't. And I called the guy I was telling you about earlier, Travis, who's my basically my partner in all things strategic and branding. And I was like, it's been like a couple days and people are doing these streaming things, but there's got to be a better way to do this with more point. Like, nobody wants to see somebody sitting in their living room playing acoustic cover songs again. And it's already, like, this is only 3 days in. Like, that's how sick of it I was at 3 days in. So I was like, we were talking about, we both had kind of the same idea at the same time, that we were like, let's figure out a way to do like an actual festival, make it feel like a festival, like brand it, like come up with marketing graphics and contests and sponsors. And it was kind of one of those things where it's just a big momentum pylon. Like, I called a couple artists that I was really close with that I knew would do it. And just sort of like, hey, we're developing this concept, and we'd love you to be involved because I think it's going to be something cool. And if not, at least we're attempting to raise some money for a good cause. And excuse me, sorry. Yeah, so I had a couple artists involved, and it's kind of one of those things where somebody finds out that so and so is doing it, and then somebody else comes, and then you start like kind of like getting up to the big dogs a little bit. So as we were doing I was doing all these like cold calls to all these artists around Canada. In the background, Travis and I partnered up with a couple other friends. This guy named Russ Dawson, who does all my digital marketing and media strategies. And another friend, Joel Jelinski, who does all of our partnerships and strategic branding alignments and things like that. And so we kind of started doing some calls to people and some sponsors, and it just all happened very quickly. Like, from the time we decided, let's make a digital festival, to the time we started it was 2 weeks. So we had 14 days to book all the artists, get all the sponsors involved, plan the set, plan the flow of it, do the contesting and all this shit. So yeah, man, like, we had, in the first couple hours, I had like Andrew Hyatt and Nice Horse and Jason Blaine and a couple country artists, and then I asked Dallas if he'd want to appear, and once I got Dallas saying like, yeah, I'll come on, and he wasn't even going to play, he just wanted to say hi. And once we got Dallas, it was like James Barker Band on Universal, and we had Jade Eagleson and Brett Kissel and all these bands, Megan Patrick and Tennille Towns, who's just
snowballs.
Yeah, and then we had so many people. I was like, I can't be on Instagram for 8 hours, so we're gonna cut it into 4 on one day and 4 on the other day. So I was able to call some other buddies and get some other people involved, and we ended up getting like, Sean Hook and Adam Gontier from Saint Asonia and Josh Ramsey from Mariana's Trench, and just all these people that I'd met throughout my Dan's adventures in music, and it was so cool, man. Like, basically the format was, it was kind of like a late night TV show. Like, they'd come on, I'd do an interview, do a little chat, they play a couple songs, and then we come back to me and I'd throw to some sponsors and do the whole thing. So it was really great, because for me personally, I want to branch out as kind of being basically just like a personality in Canada. I'd like to get more hosting gigs and doing stuff like that, because I love that kind of stuff. And that was a real workout. Like, I had monitors everywhere with notes and sponsor plugs, and I had a drink cart beside me, and every time like something went down or whatever, I'd have my guitar so I could fill time until everything came back to normal. But, and everybody that was involved was so super cool. Like Sean Hook, who's like, in Hollywood Records, lives in LA, he's doing massive, massive numbers, and he's a big star. And I gave him the wrong time. So Sean Hook sat there and watched for 2 hours, just waiting to come on. And I was like, dude, you are a saint. I'm so sorry. But that was really the only snafu of the whole thing. Like, it was so great. Okay, we had RBC kicking in money and Stingray kicking in money, and Brett Kissel helped me host a pre-show. So it was really great. I mean, we ended up raising $53,000 for the Unison Benevolent Fund, which kind of goes back into our industry. And none of the artists, none of us made any money. It was just kind of about forwarding our marketing and contributing to the cause a little bit. So that was, man, it was a mountain. It really, actually, one thing I wanted to tell you about this whole thing that was eye-opening was, I can't imagine what real festival promoters go through. Like, we were having labels calling us, bitching about other people getting higher on the poster than the other artists. I'm like, Jesus, it's a stream. Who cares? But yeah, so
it's politics. Yeah,
it is politics. But everyone, in the end, everyone was really cool, and we found a way for everyone to be happy. And I couldn't be more thankful for the music community. Like it's amazing to be able to call people out of the blue, like call like for example like Shannon McNevin at Universal Music and be like, hey man, how you doing? How's that kid? Great, congratulations. Hey, just wondering, you can you do me a favor, maybe one, a couple, two of your artists would come on. Yeah, and it's just like such a cool guy. And same thing with like the Warner people. Like it's a really a small town type of industry we have here in Canada, and man, it was great. So it was huge success for me. I think it really. It kind of the festival was nominated for Festival of the Year at the CCMAs, which was hilarious to me, being up against the Calgary Stampede.
No, that's amazing, but it's just, the truth. It's like you had an idea and you're like, okay, let's try it. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, now this is a thing. Now we've got labels getting mad about where their artists are sitting on the ad mat.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it was wild. But, like
get to work. Yeah.
Nobody was like freaking out or anything. It was just kind of like a conversation that I was like, whoa, this is getting real. But it was it was an undertaking. Like the whole thing was very DIY. Like I went to Best Buy and I bought a tablet, which I returned promptly after we used it. So we had a set like behind the camera. So if this is the iPad, here's the set, and it was all in backwards. So we had everything, all the signage printed backwards because when the camera flips. So yeah, it was. We had 2 sets, and it just looked like I was living in a big cardboard tent for a couple days. But yeah, man, it turned out great, and it really sparked this whole thing. Like the Dieselbird name came from a couple friends, like Travis, my friend Chuck Ehrman, he ran the Big Valley Jamboree grounds in Camrose. It's like a massive country festival. We had this idea to do an alternative festival, an alternative lifestyle festival, like punk rock and craft beers and craft food and tattoos and all this stuff. And we're putting together this idea, the concept for the Dieselbird show. And then when COVID hit and the world shut down and we had this idea for a digital festival, we just kind of used the name and from there we were able to keep going with it. We ended up having a hotel festival too for Dieselbird.
So I got sidetracked.
Oh, you got a question there?
No. Just Anthony Marino.
Oh, there he is.
I've seen that guy in forever. So Dan's the man. Got a lot of respect for that guy.
And Mike too.
No, more you, Dan. More you. No, but back with the Dieselbird Music Fest, it's just like when I saw that coming together and everything, I'm just like, that's what people should be doing these days. It's just like, because the thing is too, it's like, what if that didn't work?
Yeah, I mean, nothing on the line for me. If it didn't work, people would just be like, Dan had a stream. There's like 100 people there.
And it didn't really work. And it's just like, that's okay though. Cause we were chatting for a little bit before. It's like the path to success for people in music. It's like, it's easy to rhyme off all the accomplishments and things that worked out, but like to sit and talk about the things that didn't work or plans that went sideways or times where we got done dirty or something. You're just like, that is a much longer list. So I feel like the longer you're in music, you're okay with things not working. It's like you're obviously going to, calculate your risk and stuff, but it's like you're okay if things don't work out because, there's always these weird left field variables.
Yeah. And like most plans don't work out the way you want them to, but the ones that do, that's the ones that count, right? So it's, I mean, for all these streaming things, of course, we wanted to have more numbers, but when we actually went and reviewed the whole thing, it's like people are popping in and out all day long. So we kept pretty strong at about 1,500 people watching at any point in time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then when we looked at the end of the day, there was like 37,000 people watched the stream. So it was big. I mean, for me, that's a lot of FaceTime as an artist. So there's my selfish goal checked, and then for the rest of it, it's like it's a nice soft brand rub on all these artists that I love and respect and wanted to sort of connect with anyway. Like I haven't talked to Josh Ramsey from Marion's Trench in a year or two or something, and so we just got to shoot the shit a little bit, and it's hilarious. Sometimes you forget the camera's rolling, and you're like, "Ooh, should I have said that on the internet?"
The longer the live stream, the more the conversation can veer that way.
Oh, 100%.
That I've learned. I've had you almost an hour. There's still a couple things I wanted to ask you about. You went to Japan.
I did.
A little bit about that. Why did you decide to go to Japan? You shot a music video there.
Dude, this is like my favorite part about life these days is how music has Like when rock stopped, I thought that my international travel days were over. And we only really did America a little tiny bit with Tupelo, but in country, that was my first international travel experience. I think I had some money from a grant or something, and my video guy Travis and I were talking about what we're going to do for this video because we had a very short window to get it done in. And I was like, well, maybe we'll just do like a beach thing. Like we'll go to Hawaii and I'll bring my wife and you bring your girlfriend. We'll just like kind of make it a vacation video thing. And he's like, great idea. Hangs up the phone, and I was just explaining to my wife how we were going to go to Hawaii. And the phone rings, and I pick it up, and it's Travis, and he goes, tell Jen she's not coming. We're going to Japan. So, we came up with a concept where we just dressed me up like a combination of John Wayne and Elton John and plopped me in the middle of Tokyo just to see how weird people thought I was, which was very. And it was a great experience. Like we just went and like we had no reason going to Tokyo, but nobody in country music does that kind of stuff. So we were like, okay, this is what we're doing. We did a mascot costume video. This is my thing. I'm going to be the video guy. And so that was it. Like we went there for 5 days, and it was such a cool experience. I could totally live in Japan. We landed, and there was a guy with a video camera there who was interviewing me, and he had no idea who I was or why I was there. But I looked like an American, and I looked like I was like a musician or something. So, yeah, that was a life-changing experience. One of my favorite trips I've ever been on. But from there, I've played a few shows in France. Oh, greatest video ever. There you go. Thanks, Scott. Yeah, I've been to France. I've shot a video in Italy and in Hungary, and I've done a lot of work in the UK, and did a writers camp in the Dominican. So I played in China a couple of years ago. It's really crazy, man. But I like that it's taking me all these places. Like I said, like this is part of my mantra of what I want out of a music career.
Yeah, the places music will take you. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth. You have sung the national anthem at an Oilers game.
I did a few, actually. For a while there, I did probably about 10 or so.
But just thinking, did you ever think that music would get you to that spot? Like, what was the first one like?
Oh, it was terrifying. I got hammered. It was... Yeah, I think the first game I ever sang was the regular anthem singer was an opera singer. So I'm wildly different than this guy, so I was super nervous. But yeah, like I'd never sung the American national anthem before ever, and they were playing against the Pittsburgh Penguins, and so I go early for my first time so I can have a little bit of a sound check and try it out. And in sound check, I screwed up the American anthem. So I was like, oh my God. I was in my own head for like 2 hours just thinking I was going to screw it up and be all over TSN and it'd be the end of me. But, I went out there and I was standing right behind Sidney Crosby and I was singing the anthems, and I did the American one. And I think I started like, the oh, say, and then I just went dark. And then I came to and I was finishing Oh Canada, and I was like, oh my God, what just happened?
Just the adrenaline and everything.
Yeah. So
that happens.
Apparently, I nailed it, though, and that was good. And then after that, I drank all my nerves away and had a great time. But from then on, I loved it. Like it's the one song you can't screw up, but it's also it's the best song to sing in front of people because everybody loves singing along with you, And if you can I found the key with anthems is don't make it about you. Like there's so many singers that go out there and do like the whole Christina Aguilera thing, but
sing the song.
Yeah,
sing the song.
Sing it loud and properly and get the hell out of there, and that's all they want from you. It was great. I loved it though, man. I've been trying to figure out a way to go sing a Blue Jays game one of these days.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
No, it's things like that. It's amazing because again, it's funny if you were to go back to 15-year-old Dan Davidson and say you're gonna be singing the national anthems at an Oilers game. Just keep at it. Because the thing is, like, it's again, like you're talking about being 36. It's just like 20 years. Like you've probably been doing music 20 years at this point.
Yeah.
And it's just like how much you can accomplish in that time, and just how the path is always just a rat's nest. And then things start to straighten out a little bit, and the rat nest gets a little bit smaller. But yeah, it's bonkers. It's bonkers hearing stuff like that. It
is totally wild, and it's like there's a lot of discouraging days in the music business, as you probably know. Like there's so many days where it's just like, oh God, like am I spending my life doing this? But then, once in a while you get to think back and be like, I've seen some cool stuff and I've met some of the best people I've ever met. And it's totally worth it. Like all those times that you're questioning things and all the what ifs and the things that aren't for sure in your life because you're a musician just kind of sometimes are worth it when you find those lifelong experiences. And this is getting a little Tony Robbins, but
no, this is the thing. There's high highs and low lows.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, like there's lifelong friendships. Like I've known you for almost probably 15 years, for 10 years at least.
Yeah, I'd say closer to 15 because, I'd say 2005 or 6.
Yeah.
Probably maybe 2004. Like it was a while ago.
Yeah, man. So it's crazy. It's worth it. It's not an easy career path to take by any stretch,
No,
but
it's nice to know other lifers in it.
There is.
So-
It's so funny, man. I was thinking about when you asked me to come on, when we had you come out to Edmonton to sort of engineer for the drum session on a record that we were working on. And you stayed at my house, and I came downstairs one morning, and you're reading a book called The Geometry of the Universe. And I was like, whoa, this guy is way above my pay grade mentally.
I like to read. I like to read weird things sometimes.
That sounds like a smart-ass book right there.
I like computers and stuff. Dan, I've had you for an hour. Anything you want to give a shout-out to? Anything you want to plug while you're here? You want to say thanks to?
Yeah, man. Well, thanks to you for having me on. This is a cool little show. I'm really liking seeing this come together for you. This is awesome. I mean, as far as plugging stuff, I guess just plugging my new single. I got a video that just came out for Role Models, and it was a fun one. It was a very COVID-friendly shoot. Shot it around town here in Edmonton, and I wore about 45 T-shirts in it. So there's your teaser.
And where can everyone find you, Dan?
I'm pretty much everything at It's Dan Davidson or dandavidsonmusic.com.
Excellent. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. I will see you out in a second, Dan.
This sounds like the intro to Frasier, by the way, which I really appreciate.
I can change it.
No, I like it. I'm
Okay,
liking the smooth
then
jazz.
I will leave it.
Leave it.
So, copyright-free music.
Sorry, Frasier. Yeah.
All right, Dan, I'll see you in a second.
All right, buddy.
All right. That was... Oh, see, it's changed by itself. We're on to the next song here. Again, that was Dan Davidson here on DearBands Live. Country music artist, producer, songwriter. Started in rock bands, ended up singing in his rock band, and they split with the original singer, and then eventually transitioned into country. Now, if you were to write that down, if you were 15 years old and you were to put that on a piece of paper and say this is what your career path in music is going to look like, you'd probably look at it and go, I don't know about this. But as Dan was saying, most important thing is your own personality and character and being true to who you are as an artist. You probably can hop around to quite a few genres and still always fall back in a safe spot if you are true to yourself and know who you are. All right. I'm going to end it there. Thanks for everyone in the chat. Again, I see questions and stuff there. I'll hop in there later. I will put the details for Dan Davidson in the details below in YouTube after for the replay. Once again, I am Mike from Langford.com and DearBands. Let's get this set up here. Thanks for watching.